that is part of what I'll discuss today. But I think that is hugely important because once you prepare, like you wouldn't go out, even though, kind of it could be acceptable in some places, but you wouldn't go out the house without having your clothes on, right? And so really deciding who you want to be, preparing your day is part of being clothed. And we'll talk a little bit more about that on today, but I just kind of wanted to echo what Edmund and Greg had said in managing emotions. And initially, I said, I didn't want to spend too much time on that, but I think that's important too. So since we're a small group, and hopefully you know that you're going to be on camera, but you'll be vulnerable and open and sharing, and so maybe we can help each other process what we're going through. So let's get started. All right, so who am I? Greg told you a little bit about who I am, but one of the things I do is I love to travel, and I am an aunt, not a mother. So I have several generations of nieces and nephews, and then I am a former line dance instructor. So that's me. And then my background is in human resources, so I'm a dual certified human resources professional, and I'm also a certified coach. And so what's on the agenda for today? We're going to talk about self-awareness. So we're going to talk about where we are in our emotions. We're going to define well-being, and then we're going to talk about the process. So we're all in a process, right? And it's kind of like almost every day, life is a process, right? So we're going to talk about particularly the job search process. And it's not necessarily particularly the job search process, but a lot of these tools are good for any life circumstance. Because one of my focuses is helping women in transition. And honestly, if you're growing, you're always in transition. So these tools are really great for helping a person to be able to navigate life as you're going through it. And so we're going to prepare for the process, we're going to be present in the process, and then we're going to process the process. Process the heck out of it. Okay, so how are you feeling? One thing Greg said is to really be conscious, and Edmund said it as well, to really be present to what it is that you're feeling. Don't try to overlook anything, and in coaching we call it don't step over things. So if something happens, acknowledge it. It doesn't mean that you have to sit in it. You can give yourself a couple of hours, you can give yourself whatever time you need in order to be able to process it, but just don't ignore it. Because what you do when you ignore it, you stuff it, and what happens when you stuff it's kind of like a pressure cooker. Eventually something small will happen, and it blows up all over the place. I was looking at a video online, and a person didn't know how to use a pressure cooker, and they were cooking collard greens, and it ended up everywhere. And it's kind of like emotions. You end up all over other people, and it usually is the other people that don't necessarily have anything to do with what just happened or what you've been feeling. So one of the things, I was listening to conversations this morning, and your 3 words, a lot of people have emotions in the 3 words. And then I was listening, and Maggie, yes, and actually Caroline talked about you're my people. And I love that. And then there were some other conversations, and you're talking about emotions and kind of handling that. But really, as you go through the job search process, there's a lot of things that come up. There's like frustration. Actually, it's fear, first of all, because when it first happens, and that's actually the next slide. You go through a process when you first realize or you get information. Sometimes you first go through denial. Right? It's like when you first lost your job or when you were first outplaced, you kind of like, this isn't really happening to me. Why is this happening to me? So you kind of go through denial, and then you might go through a little bit of anger, like, how dare they? I gave them 25 years of my life, and now I'm out on the street. And, once you get through that anger, then you go through maybe some bargaining. Okay, well, maybe I'll be able to get through this. So, you kind of, internalize it within yourself, and, you try to get yourself, okay, well, if I do this, then I'll be able to do that, you know. And if I, you know, put my heart and soul into my job search, I'll be able to get another job in a few weeks. And, you know, it's like, okay, well, I haven't had an interview in probably 10 years. So maybe that's not necessarily practical. And then, you know, once things start happening, you go through a little bit of down. You know, you get a little down and you get a little depressed. And then once you get through all of that, you eventually go into acceptance. And then you start developing new tools. Now, you can go through back and forward through this process all day, every day. You might even go through the process every hour. And that's okay. It's just a matter of being able to recognize where you are, be honest with yourself where you are, and then be willing to put in the work to be able to get through it. So we'll go back and we'll say how we're feeling, because, you know, first of all, fear sets in. It's like, goodness gravy, how long am I going to be unemployed? How long is my unemployment going to last? What happens after my unemployment ends? You know, so that you've got all that fear. And then once you start applying to jobs and you don't hear anything, you go into the black hole, then you're frustrated. You're like, goodness gravy, what in the world? What is it going to take to crack that code for me to get even a phone interview? Then once you get a phone interview, then you may or may not go on to the next stage. And then when you actually do get a face-to-face interview and you don't hear back, it's like, that is a whole bunch of emotions all up in there. There's confusion. There's like, why? There's like, I'm really, you start to doubt yourself a little bit. And so the importance of processing the emotions is actually being able to feel it and not ignore it. And so once you actually identify it, that's the first thing. So when you're going through and you feel something, try to name it. Name it, and then be able to write it down if you're in a position to be able to write it down. But don't limit yourself to what it is, like one thing. You know, like do a laundry list. Almost do an emotional dump onto a piece of paper, right? And so take all of those emotions, all of those feelings, all of that information and put it out. So get it kind of outside of you onto a piece of paper, and sometimes I say a disposable piece of paper, because sometimes you want to get it away, but other times you want to keep track of what it is that you're going through, because you can find out what your triggers are in that case. And Greg talked about that, you know, when you're, sometimes when you're around family and they ask, oh, how's the job search going? You know, they don't mean bad. You know, they just want to know how you're doing. But, you know, oftentimes that could be a trigger for you. And sometimes if you go through the preparation phase and preparation for that, you're able to better handle it. So when you have these emotions, you know, get them out on paper. If you're, any journalers in here? Okay, yeah. So you're a journalist. Do you actually do kind of personal journaling for yourself?
Journal only occasionally, sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. But that's a good way to actually get what's in your mind out of your mind, you know, because we'll talk about the evening routines in a little bit, but, you know, that helps to kind of do, like I said, an emotional dump, or get everything that's in your heart and your mind on paper and out of you. And actually you're able to see it. And then when you are able to put some distance between what you're feeling and where you are, that really helps you in being able to process it. So usually I ask, and I'm sorry to go back, but usually I ask kind of, what is it that you wanted to get out of today? Is there anybody that's willing to share?
I was hoping you could tell us how to, besides the whole stay positive kind of thing people said, constructive like steps when you're not feeling so great to get you going.
Is that good? Steps to move forward. Okay.
I'm not sure it's the same thing, but fear of confidence.
Yes.
I can talk myself out of just about anything. And so if I could figure out a way to be, I guess it's maintaining confidence, steps moving forward, but overcoming my own worst critic somehow.
High five.
Yeah.
Yes.
How to keep motivated.
Okay.
How to handle triggers.
Uh-huh.
How to stay hopeful in those experiences.
Yes.
How to have some kind of life besides looking for jobs.
Ah.
Like what you do while you're doing it and getting rejected can go on for a long time.
How to accept feelings. Probably another time. Kind of know like what the priorities are. You know, the job searching versus personal things.
Okay, awesome. This is great. Okay, so, I'm trying to think of where in my presentation I handle some of these things. I'm going to tackle this one, how to accept things. So, when you go through this process of, kind of, and as I said, it might be a couple times an hour, it might be every day, or however, when you come to acceptance, you have a peace about it. And so how you get there is to actually kind of do the first thing that I mentioned, which is almost do an emotional dump, like get it all out. And then one of the things that Caroline says is she has people. So her people are her tribe, and they are who she goes to for that emotional support and connection. And we're not meant to travel life alone. We're not. And so by having individuals in your life that you connect with, that actually are your strength and can provide you that emotional support and encouragement are really valuable as you're going through this process and moving in the direction of acceptance. And so, after you do your emotional dump and you're able to provide some distance between where you are and what you're feeling, then it's like, okay, what does that mean about me? What is that saying about me that I'm feeling these things? And the real connection is that it doesn't mean anything about you personally. You are not what you feel. You are who you are. And the only way you identify who you are is by getting that separation between and kind of getting that distance between where you are and what you're feeling. So, and then once you decide that that is not who you are, then you're able to say, okay, I'm okay to feel this. I'm a human being. I can feel these things. It's okay. I can be disappointment. I can be disappointed. I can be discouraged. I can be irritated, I can be frustrated, but I could also be happy. And I can choose to be something different than other than what I'm feeling at the moment. So the thoughts that we have create the feelings that we then have, and then they create the actions that we then do. And so the acceptance part is to acknowledge and to first be aware, acknowledge, and then take action. Action to counter whatever it is that you're feeling. But, to acknowledge it means to sit in it a little bit, to process it, but then to be able to say, does this serve me? And is this who I want to be? And then if it's not, then take the action to be what it is that you want to be. That's hopefully counter to what it is that you are feeling. So that's a little bit of how to process the acceptance, and I think I stepped ahead a little bit, but it's never too much to go over that. So any questions about kind of processing acceptance? It boils down, and I hate to simplify things, but it boils down to a choice, because once you acknowledge where you are, then you can choose to either let that be who you are and lead you in life, or you can choose to not let that diminish who you are and then actually have who you are come through. So you choose then what you do after you know how it is that you feel. And you choose whether or not you want to make it about you, or whether or not you want to make it about who you be in the world. Yes. Sure.
One of the things that was helpful for me, the position I had was a very prominent position, but at the time it wasn't who I wanted to describe it. So conversely, not having a job doesn't define me either.
Right.
So
That's good.
Yeah,
It is. Yeah, because you're right, who you are, well, what you do.
what I did, right.
What you do and what you do or what you do for a profession is not who you are. It doesn't define you. It doesn't, it doesn't get you up in the morning. It doesn't say that you're a dad. It doesn't say that you're a father. It doesn't say that you're a son or a husband or a wife or an aunt, or it doesn't define you. It is what you do.
But
And then,
if you're passionate about it, doesn't it somewhat define you?
yes, and so when you're able to work in your passion, then usually you're able to kind of, the position that you have is able to, your passion is within, and then it's how you express yourself through your purpose and through the work that you do. And so if it's in you, then you can do it even if you're not at that particular job.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so, and we're very interactive, so please stop me, ask questions, feel free. So we're going to move on to well-being and self-care. I am like a well-being self-care champion. If you look it up in the dictionary, you won't see my face, but you'll probably hear me cheerleading. Like, this is so important, and this is something that is so necessary for you, because well-being and self-care, as you're going through this process, and some of you have been in the process for a very long time, your strength, your energy, your well-being, and how you take care of yourself is hugely important. Because you know what? You can't pour from an empty cup. And if how you start and approach your job search, like if you're going on LinkedIn and you're looking for the people that you just applied for, trying to get in touch with those recruiters, if your mind is drained, or if you're frustrated, or if you're not positive, then that's going to come across in whatever communications you do, and it's going to permeate your day. And so you can interrupt that by having a positive well-being and get kind of that energy and that motivation and encouragement, and carry that through with you. So if you take care of yourself, then you'll be able to take care of your process, and you'll be able to last longer in the process. And so you honor your self-worth. Because you're when you apply to something and you go into the black hole, you feel like invisible, or you feel like someone, like, hello, I'm out here. Did you not know that I have 20 years of experience? And do you not know that I'm just a joy to work with? And how come you can't see that? They can't see that on the paper. And so they are doing themselves a disservice sometimes by not actually inviting you in for the interview. But that doesn't mean that just because they can't see it that your worth diminishes. Your worth is still there. And so by you taking care of yourself and you pouring into your cup, you're ensuring that you are conscious to your worth every single day. And then when you know your worth, that's what you generate and permeate out to those that you meet on a regular basis. So, I like to consider the life, or your life, broken down into 6 key areas. There is the emotional well-being. Of course, there's financial well-being. This I like to consider social or relational well-being. And then you obviously have your mental health. And then by mental health, I mean stimulation and kind of intelligence. And then because you kind of cover a little bit of mental health when it comes to counseling and therapy and the emotional aspect. And then you have physical and spiritual. And so what I'd like for us to do now is take a little bit of opportunity to kind of jot down what it is that we enjoy doing in each of these areas. Because from this, we're going to create a well-being. And so, you know that I would like to work alone. So I'm going to ask that you pair up with a partner or two and use this in order to be able to write down. You're just brainstorming at this point. You want to, in these areas, write down what it is that you like to do or what it is that you would like to do in each of these areas in order to source you. Now, what I mean by source is to fill your cup. So how are you filling your cup in each of these areas?
So what are we doing as a pair?
As a pair, you're brainstorming of like, okay, so Tom, you can say, well, for physical health, I like to walk, or I like to do to lift weights. And so that might start something for Benita. Benita is like, oh yeah, well I like to run, or I like to, so if you get together amongst yourselves, then you would say what it is that you like to do, or what it is that you would like to do in each of these areas in order to be able to fill your cup. And then as you're sharing it with your partner, that might spark them to say, oh yeah, well I like to do X, Y, and Z. So you're just kind of brainstorming. So I'll be your practice.
Yep, I have meditation.
Working out, but I don't necessarily try. It's like walking or cooking, and I was
I do some of that, I don't really,
and physical.
but I run.
Oh, good for you.
And I also, in the last couple of years, I started doing aqua fitness.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that's great. Oh, that's good.
Yeah,
When it's
when you're
really
dance.
and didn't do as much of that. I do like walking. That's one of those.
Any kind I like to do,
Clear my head,
you know,
move around.
Water. I don't like to do
You walk on, you walk on.
I don't have a borrowing all the neighbors. Yeah. Actually, that fits into the emotional. It's getting the, supporting the dog. Friends.
Veronica?
Yes.
Can you give us a little bit more about emotional?
Yeah, so emotional is like talking to a friend, or it's maybe
Good acknowledging.
practicing gratitude, or maybe even kind of spiritual as well. With the
Yeah, exactly.
What we
I was feeling where, and I wasn't even reaching out on behalf of myself, I was reaching out on behalf
And so
of
sometimes, you know, like I get
I was shocked at
maybe sometimes
the non-help, you know? It's like I can't imagine sometimes I didn't know anything, even if I didn't have the answer, I would try to find,
But, you know, it's kind of,
it's kind of weird to shut down people sometimes. So, yeah, the right,
and usually
the right,
that's kind of, and all of these areas
Right.
also in some ways, you know.
emotionally, you know, I also like to treat myself, whether that's
If I'm angry, I go outside and I get some air. Yep.
my favorite
Sunshine is
show.
huge
For me, that's emotional support.
You know, like that's what you're like today.
Treating myself, yeah.
You know, you can soak up that energy, and then that actually kind of helps to get you out of
But trying not to have that be the primary. That's the challenge. Be the primary thing that I'm doing all the time, right?
It's a reward.
It's a reward, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I'm feeling it.
Where going out to dinner used to be because that's not that's the financial.
Actually focus on
It's a little
Would you say that journaling would be in that category? That's something that I had been on my mind for a long time. I'm going to do it.
Actually, yoga is
Yeah, and it's some meditation, because that's like physical and spiritual.
Right, did you do it on your own or did you do it with someone?
I do it on my own. They're very
Go to a concert, go to a movie.
People sometimes, even if you don't know the people.
Yeah, just go out.
There's life is still happening outside your house.
Move around.
What's it called?
There are others.
And that covers a couple of areas too.
Yeah.
You know, just so
Sort of walks.
Financial well-being.
Oh, what? Did you find it?
Yes, and like
To varying degrees.
Yeah, yeah.
being conscious of what you're spending, yes.
Oh, my
Yeah, it's
advisor.
every
Right,
day.
but it
But it
helps,
gets you
it gets you in a routine, doing things.
Yeah.
Thinking about it in a different way.
Don't look at my,
I will.
portfolios.
And I admire others that find that.
I guess spiritual is different than
Yeah, couldn't figure, we're gonna have to come back to that.
And it's
But I
also,
love that
you know, well, part of it kind of, is that what you do in the road?
You know, I don't read as much. I used to read when I was in Munich. I'm not good at sitting at home and reading. I do like to see how it goes. I don't know if that counts.
Sure.
I was thinking, oh my God, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, some reading.
I haven't heard that one for
Do you write? Like creative?
Yeah, so that's like the reading.
You know, I used to.
That was awesome.
I haven't done it lately, but then I thought about it, I should get back to it. If I could write here.
Just in your industry, I find this very
And have a conversation
and you to be
with friends, right? I mean,
that's a
current topics.
Yeah.
usually the courses there you can find some
Friends or neighbors.
that are usually helpful and you can get certification.
Yeah, I've done the same on Coursera.
I thought I would be showing, hey, you're
Yeah,
on
and
the
then
link.
kind of back to the movie or something.
No, not the yoga.
As a form. I'm going to things that we're watching a couple of I'm not sure where she It didn't get outsourced kind of my way. It was a tough one. Again,
What I will say is that a lot of these
it wasn't
processes,
tough.
so the things you're
these social
social
It did actually, somebody's reviews were like, oh, it's a part of that. Disgusting. And I just found it hard. I found it stimulating mentally, it really did, rather than it being disgusting. It was a real statement. And having it like you're bringing to life.
Well, it's also beautiful.
It's bad enough you have dark ideas. Another thing that happened last night. With the one here.
It's kind of
That's great, yeah. That's fantastic. Plays or musicals?
Mostly, yeah, almost all.
Yeah, the studio has some really distinct
I know, I thought I should come here today, otherwise I was going to write it down.
so immediately
I talk about various categories, and you can see my gratitude that you're
And you would join the falls category. So use money to do things that you would like to do.
You're entitled to be volunteering, there's a lot of commitment, and there's a whole lot of,
See,
I tell them I got it.
when I spend less than I budgeted,
well, I mean, it's a regular.
Yeah, they would know. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So, yeah, but that's how you do it.
I know. Some people are
right, oh, yeah. If you were gonna buy it, you
Right,
right?
right.
Well,
You know, they don't
feel like I have
need
to
all of the
be
ones that have sales well. Okay.
Well, somebody said when they were
Yeah.
talking about
Yeah, no, that's,
don't ignore the other parts of the life.
Yeah, I know that.
Oh, you said that.
Oh, yeah, always look at the ones, and then because they're right there. $4 I bought a couple of those, like, yeah, it's free money. I use that.
That I don't feel like every day I wake up and I don't have this connection.
Activities to
It's
enjoy.
really, really crazy. I just got this call.
You spend money on it.
And so that's what
And that's
Yeah,
part of your
yeah.
well-being.
And then when I went to have the interview on the phone, they didn't know we made her. So I haven't had, I was all set up in the site call and they never called me. One snowy day we had all the so let's see, financial management, I like that.
Take care of incidents.
Get paid to do that, that's great.
Some of the neighbors are better at it others, because I love the dogs, I kind of got to know two summer, so some of them are younger couples, and we'll pay them off the one, which is nice, they're cute. That's something I'm not always finding for myself anymore, so, yeah, so that's good. I get the much support from the dogs.
I go to like a working group, lunches, there's so many, and she said, what field are you in?
I do marketing communications and social media.
So what I'm doing a lot is going to working groups where they have lunch, and I
I don't feel like I'm branching out very much, right? Keep coming up. If you're going to events.
international development, also nonprofit, like I'm thinking, maybe I won't do the international side, maybe I'll do more local. Refugees or kids.
What I was just gonna say, you could volunteer. Exactly, yeah, it is,
But
yes.
I love going to developing countries, doing capacity training, facilitating.
Actually, that fits in really well.
Yeah, no, I know that.
Sort of volunteer.
I'm thinking even maybe some
There's also a stretch on
Or hadn't had time to do before, I'm not sure if it existed, but it actually turned into.
Yeah, I would like to do that, but that's also hard to find. That's like a
But it's like, you're right, that's consistency. When I'm not going to it every day, yeah, nice to have that.
I don't think I can have everything. I
Quite
mean, to see my kids
stimulation.
and work and, you know, unless I have, unless I have, a day off.
Schedule, you know.
Yeah.
And also it gets
On
you.
Friday, Thursday night, whatever.
Right. What are you going to do?
I usually
Yeah, that's a big deal. No, I'm well, it's not just that, it's just, I wouldn't do that at all, because I'm from there. It's,
Just got
Right.
so I just wanted to make the city that I like to be and walking to be everywhere versus driving and traffic and ugly and
trying to accomplish.
fire.
Volunteering.
In traffic. I don't know, it's on a daily basis to,
Right, I looked into that.
Yeah,
unless
so
I found
very
something
sweet,
nice there.
pretty
Like, well, then-
rooted here, so I was
Drive
looking
around.
around here and
You have to.
it's pretty hard. For some reason,
Go to things, there's no way around.
other cities that have more programs in DC, so that kind of thing, yeah.
Well, maybe because it's kind of a blood on the farm.
Even if I found, I'm gonna still look for jobs
place
there.
that I golf course has a extensive job board, an online job board, and like there's some.
How long have you been at it?
But so I'm also looking at like online, but a lot of that is like in China, so you have to.
I've been looking and
You just schedule, get a
I lost my job 3 years ago. I have been on the internet circuit, so I haven't won 10 years.
So I think this course
Looking in my favor.
now, first of all, like better at the volunteer stuff that I'm doing, and also it really maybe you should get a different way. Stuff you're gonna do, it's different from writing down and researching.
Have you talked to
I've taught, not, I've done a little, second language, but mostly like in one-on-one or like much smaller group, not.
I really love
Yeah, the classes were big.
You're coming up with the curriculum?
So, and volunteering in English, they give you a pretty structured,
I think that I need
curriculum and lesson
to.
plan.
Were you there last week? That one of the folks.
They start out by giving you give you lesson more, is up to you.
Right, to figure out what you want to do.
Right.
As I get older, and I have a lot of years of experience, how do I
A lot of energy.
use that to my advantage?
What do I want to do? So I looked at English as a second language, and the fact that it can go.
I know, and should we create
I'm afraid that it's for much younger people. You know, the energy. I genuinely not
Because I
that.
feel like I gave you a lot about work.
Everything about
All
it.
of us, right? And I just had that feeling about it. I had that
So
feeling.
the largest group is people that are 20.
I want to do what I want to do. Like maybe with a team or something.
People who were
I don't know what it is. It has to be out there, right? It has to exist.
Well, but they say that people
on the groups,
awful people who were toxic
they were,
they have one big team.
probably 4 or slide out.
So second career.
Yeah, or retire and do retirement.
And I feel like
So there's,
concept of work.
yeah, so that's just a little bit.
I like that. I can't wrap my head around it, but I feel like this is a transition a lot. Yeah, and we're keeping our own space, shared space, I know although she goes to a couple of different places, but she does start to see a familiar face. That's the other thing, you're going to be different people all the time.
Right, of course, oh my gosh.
And
So it's really good. Depending on what you guys
Sure.
it's very important. Everyone's like, am I to do this? Am I everyone about that. In my group, there were, I think, 3 or 4 people who had either are now or were in the past. That were big abilities. Like, yeah. So that's kind of a normal thing.
I feel the same way.
Without forcing presented, like something.
Marketing, when I graduated from college.
This is rigorous, and so, you know, we're gonna make it rigorous.
I worked so hard to make it up.
That was some of her classes.
But they
Every job description that I look at.
Want to weed out people.
I get it, and I know the concepts, and I've done it, but I want to do that. That's like, sort of ethically, I have to I'm like, I want to see the Google Beast.
we in our group is another way you could do that without, you can also do it a little bit more.
I speaking of Coursera, I just finished
Individual
class
teachers,
on HTML5.
3 different teachers.
Design language.
And we're helping them.
Okay, the internet is never going
But it's
away.
just like the structure of the program.
Maybe I need to learn
But that's interesting that you're
Right.
Yeah, and then volunteering was like, was part of the was like volunteer.
So you can work on your own, but you also pay like a company that specializes in it. So you have different projects.
Find the thing that you like in it,
So
in that field.
Right.
Hey, how did you How did we do on our list?
pretty good.
Okay, good. Do we have something in every category? Okay. Anybody want to share something that they uniquely do, or that they thought was a nice idea, or something that they want to do, have aspirations to do? Yes.
I aspire to journal.
Okay.
I read all about journaling, and it doesn't take very long, but I just can't get off and do it.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Start small.
Yeah.
So, if it maybe just a small thought, as opposed to, trying to dedicate a particular amount of time, just start with a thought.
So you're supposed to journal like at the end of the day?
It's-
Go through the day?
It's up to you. Some people journal throughout the day by taking little notes, in different places and kind of keeping a pad with them, and so they don't have necessarily the same pad all the time. And then some people do it in the morning,